This is Career Lab with Levi and Bobak, the podcast that features fascinating pathways to success and the people who've navigated their own journeys in the ever-changing and fast-paced modern economy. I'm Levi Maya. Our guest this week is Brian Milburn, a software developer and tech entrepreneur. Brian was a pioneer in developing and selling software for the internet back before most people even knew what it was. His work was so innovative that China decided to steal it. On this edition of Career Lab with Levi and Bobak, find out if you have what it takes to bring an idea to the marketplace and then go up against a Goliath who decides to pirate it.
Welcome to Career Lab with Levi and Bobak. I'm Bobak Babahani, and
what did you find on your seat today?
Oh, I found a certificate, which I was waiting for when I would get this. Let's see if I can, if the camera.
Certificate.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you print this?
I printed that on my dot matrix printer. It's something I picked up. You know, I'm interested in old tech, so that's what that is. And that was one of my first prints. I thought, well, let me make a certificate of merit for my esteemed co-host Bob. Our guest tonight is heavily involved in tech. Brian Milburn is a Southern California native, and after high school in Santa Barbara, he started working in construction as a general contractor and a home builder, and in the 1990s, his interest shifted toward the newly popular internet. He began developing software to help parents in schools manage children's access to the web, and his CyberSitter content filter put his small software company on the map. It was so effective, Bob, that he faced off against the Chinese government over allegations that they stole his company's code and its other intellectual property. He accomplished what many at the time said was impossible. He took the Chinese government to court and prevailed. Today, he continues to develop software with a focus on AI and telecommunications. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I know our listeners are eager to hear about facing off against the Chinese government. But before we do that, can we go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your high school experience and getting into the workforce?
Let's see. I went to high school here in Santa Barbara. In my junior year, I went to Dunn School up in Los Olivos. And back then it was a all-boys school. And it was kind of fun doing that because it was kind of rugged and rural, and we had a good time. Unfortunately, I think I had too good a time. They told me that I didn't have enough credits to graduate, and that I'd have to go for another year. And I said, nah, I don't think so. So I got a job in a gas station and got my own apartment and dropped out of school. So that was about the end of my schooling.
So I'm curious, when did you first start working with computers, and what was it about computers that really caught your attention?
I went to work for a property management company somewhere around, I think it was around 1980 or 81 or something like that, just about the time IBM first offered their first IBM PC. My boss bought one. He figured there ought to be a way to use it in business, and no one knew how to use it. So I took the books home and I figured it out, and at least enough to get disks formatted and get the software put on and get WordStar put on and all of that. So when the internet started to get popular, there still was not any, people were getting internet mostly for email. Mm-hmm. There was no websites. There was none of that. If you went to another server somewhere, it'd be something where you could download stuff. Basically, you could download whatever it was they offered. There just wasn't a lot to do. But as time went on, obviously people started making websites, and one of the big drivers of internet, it was porn, and CyberSitter knew where they were and knew where all the sites were, and we could block it efficiently without interfering with the rest of, with normal computer operation. I was thinking to myself, okay, this is immediately going to be popular with parents and schools. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be there. And as a matter of fact, 25 years later, I'm still publishing it. I still get, mostly to schools now, but I still publish it. And, I just kind of, I didn't want to be, I didn't go in it with a kind of a attitude like I'm going to clean up the internet, because that wasn't the case. I mean, I saw a problem, and I, decided that was what I was going to work on. However, if I'd have come along with something else that was a better seller, I would have gone that way. But
so how did
it just worked?
How did it get in the hands of how did your source code and your proprietary IP get into the hands of the Chinese government, and what was the impetus of that case?
That was I still don't know how they got it. I don't think that they reverse engineered a lot of it. But they didn't do a very good job at that. I know they reverse engineered a lot of it, because one of the things we found later was my copyright was in the code, and they had not bothered to remove that. So it was right there. What happened is that I started getting emails from Chinese people, dissidents that lived in the United States, and they called me. They said I was not a friend of China, I was an enemy of the people, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was cranks. I got one of these emails and I deleted it. I got two, deleted it, and then I got two or three more, and I started thinking, well, something's going on. This is all about the same thing, and it's they're all from the Chinese guys. And so I wrote back to one of them, and I told him, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Can you explain this? And he was the one guy that sounded the most reasonable. And he said that a university in Michigan, the University of Michigan, in fact, had released a paper saying that we had supplied the software for this project they had going on called Green Dam. So
the Chinese had going on.
Yeah. They called it Green Dam Youth Escort. Mm-hmm. And it was primarily to they of course they use it for a lot of other things. I mean, they put it on. They blocked anything to do with religion or Falun Gong or Tiananmen Square or any of that stuff. I mean, they were using it for social adherence and not just as a parental control tool. And so the guy that discovered it was a computer science teacher named Halderman. And interestingly enough, he just did a paper on voting machines that was, I think, the voting machines in Georgia. He's still, respected expert. But they had reverse engineered the Green Dam software as a class project. And they found my copyright in there, and they thought that we had just licensed the software to China.
That would be a natural assumption, right? You would think if you saw that, you've uncovered this U.S. agency that's working for the Chinese government.
Yeah, and he said, I put a call into him, and he called me back, and he says, we were thinking, boy, you got a great sale there, licensed it in China, and he filled me in. And apparently there was a law they implemented in China that had to be put on every new computer sold in China, every one. And that included all the ones that were made by the 7 major computer manufacturers at the time that manufactured their computers and sold in China.
So like
E-
HP and
Yep.
Dell, they were selling computers in China with this Green Dam software on it, but the majority of this software, the code came from your company.
Right. Yeah. And Halderman was real helpful. I mean, he spent a lot of time helping me, figure out what was going on. Uh, Making some sense out of the whole thing because I still didn't quite understand the enormity of it. But apparently, at this point, they'd already put it on 55 million computers in China.
Wow.
And all the ones sitting on the shelves, all the ones being shipped from Hewlett Packard and Asus and Acer and Lenovo, and all of those all had the software on it. And I thought, well, I think I'm going to need a lawyer. And the first thing I did was I know some guys at PC Magazine. I'd previously received 5 PC Magazine Editors Choice Awards from PC Magazine, so I knew a couple of the editors there, and I sent them the information, and they says, we don't know what to do with this. This is big. And so they came out with a story the next morning, and everything just sort of blew up. I got a local lawyer, who didn't really know that much about it, and
It was hard to find someone locally that was expert at suing the Chinese government.
Yeah,
That's a surprise.
Well, and you tell them they say, well, who's infringing on your property? You say China. They go,
okay.
Who in China? I said, China. The government was doing it. They mandated it.
So this was covered in Forbes and lots of different magazines. If you search Brian Milburn in China, pretty much the story is well documented on there about how this all happened. Tell our listeners what the end result was after filing this complaint and hearing back from the Chinese government.
Well, one thing about China is you never actually hear from China. They pretty much say, "Oh, we didn't do anything." And that's it. That's how they handle everything. But I got some good attorneys that were intellectual property and entertainment industry attorneys in Beverly Hills or around there. I don't think it was in Beverly Hills, but they were real good attorneys, and they knew what to do. And we got started on it. And the big thing is that you typically cannot get a foreign government into a court. They have sovereign immunity, and they can pretty much kill you if they want, and you can't take them to court. But we managed to get the sovereign immunity put aside so that they would have to come to court, which would mean if they didn't show up to court and I won by default, we were suing them for $2.2 billion.
Wow.
And which would mean that I would get a judgment against China for $2.2 billion. And if I wanted to go take an airplane of, a jet or something that belonged to China, I'd take my thing to the marshal and go down. They'd seize the aircraft.
Right.
So it had some ramifications, that they had to deal with. I ought to show it to you sometime. I've got a letter that the Chinese ambassador wrote to Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State at the time, demanding that the judge drop this case.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was high up there. There was a lot of everybody knew about it, and our Secretary of State knew about it. The U.S. Trade Representative was involved in it. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office was involved. There was a lot of people. And contrary to what happens with a lot of times you need the government's help, this time I kind of got it. So they were eager to do something to China to slap their hands for their intellectual property theft. And this was a good thing, a good way to do it. It was kind of a good story. I wasn't a big company, I was a little guy. And it was I was fighting back against the Goliath, and they thought that would be a good way to do it, because if I lost, I was nobody, and if I won, I'd be sort of a hero for a little while, and that would look good.
Low risk and high reward.
Right? Yeah. So it took 2 years. And it was really draining, especially when you consider. See, I found out about it in May of 2009. In November of 2008, we had the T-fire here, and 2 of my houses were burned down. And so I was dealing with that. And then on top of that, I was dealing with this Chinese thing. So, I was, how I got through all that, I still don't know for sure. But I was literally working like 20 hours a day, trying to get everything done. The insurance company makes you list every single thing you owned down to paper clips, so you can get reimbursed for it. And that was taking a lot of time. The Chinese thing, I'd have to do depositions and all kinds of legal things. Then when Discovery started, we were suing 7 computer manufacturers in addition to China.
Mm-hmm, right.
And every one of them sent their own interrogatories that had to be answered. So it was just a tremendous amount of work.
So what was the outcome?
Well, the outcome, what I can say is I don't really know. They didn't. Some money showed up
in an envelope under your doormat.
Yeah, I think it was more like a briefcase, But my lawyers handled that. But the thing is that China could not have their fingerprints on any of this,
right?
Because that would open the door to every other guy that wanted to sue him. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how they did it. It was like my lawyers said, we don't know either, but supposedly money's going to show up, and you sign off on this, but it didn't come from China. So they weren't exactly sure where it came from, because they used some kind of squirrely routing system so that it was sort of disguised where the origin was. But I know it passed through Taiwan because I had to pay Taiwanese taxes, believe it or not. And and it came, and at that point they never did admit any responsibility for it. They never admitted that they were involved in it in any way. But it was we knew that they were. I did a little hacking of my own and was able to find evidence that they had been working on this for a while, that they had somehow gotten my source code probably a year prior to that. And I found different iterations of their progress trying to make their own Chinese product. And also found out, had some help with people in the intelligence community, that some of the people involved were definitely Chinese military. Mm-hmm. And, we were, I was probably, I don't know. My wife was a little worried about it. Every morning I'd set little traps so I'd know if anybody messed with my car. Yeah. But, and then I had other people that were keeping eyes on.
Get a remote start, right? You don't want to be in there when you turn it on.
Yeah. You ever watch The Godfather?
So when it was resolved, did the Chinese government stop using your source code in there what they were delivering to these computer manufacturers?
They did,
Yeah.
but it didn't stop their retribution. They still caused me some problems after that, but I got on the list of they apparently they wanted to still keep tabs on me and find out what I was working on, what I was doing, because
Well, you were one of their best software developers, right?
oh yeah.
How many billions of copies sold?
Oh, I got a plaque in the other room from PC World magazine back when it was a magazine, and I had was asked for a statement about it, and I made a very strong statement about it, and PC World picked it as one of their top 10 quotes of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates on their list.
Well, normally we ask people like questions like, what would you advise someone who's trying to get into your field? It sounds like, I'm not sure whether I should ask you how do I advise someone about taking a foreign government to court, or how do I advise someone about, getting into the software development field? You talked a little bit about, seeing this problem and sort of saying, okay, I can develop something that I think is going to be useful as the internet gets more and more popular. What do you think some of the problems are out there today that are unaddressed, that are opportunities for young people to get involved in an entrepreneurial way with either software or hardware development?
Well, things change so fast, and they're going to change a lot faster with artificial intelligence. I mean, mm-hmm. I think the opportunities now for artificial intelligence development are better than the computer opportunities were in the 80s. Every now and then there's something that changes the paradigm. And, the last time was the advent of the PC, of the desktop PC that someone could own in their home. And then that's just sort of evolved, but there weren't any really ground-shaking events, just steady progress until now, until the artificial intelligence revolution.
Brian, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us this evening. Appreciate it. Fascinating story about your life and tackling a big government, becoming an entrepreneur. A lot to learn. So thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us.
Yeah, I wanted to add that if anybody's watching this and they say, well, gee, how would I even sue China? Like they ripped me off. I helped them out because we had 2 published decisions that set precedent, and so now it's a whole lot easier to get China in court. And they even teach it at Harvard Law School, I found out.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe that'll be it. We do a thumbnail every week for somebody. Maybe that'll be it. It's a whole lot easier now because of me to get China in court.
I just typed that.
Did you just type that? I love it. All right.
Somebody had to do it.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. All right, Bob.
Yeah.
Another show in the books, as I always say. Thanks for being here with us on this episode of Career Lab with Levi and Bobak. If you enjoyed the program and you're watching here on YouTube, then please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, hit the bell icon for notifications of new episodes and live streams. Of course, audio of the show is available on major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Visit careerlabpodcast.com for all the ways that you can watch and listen.